Before you spend another dollar on volumizing, shampoo, thickening sprays, or expensive styling tools, let me share something that many women don't realize until it's too late. If your hair has become thinner after 60, the biggest problem often isn't your hair at all. It's the haircut. I've noticed that many women blame aging hormones or genetics when their hair starts looking flat and lifeless. While those changes are certainly real, choosing the wrong haircut can make thin hair appear even finer, heavier, and less flattering than it actually is. On the other hand, the right haircut can create the illusion of fuller, healthier hair before you even reach for a styling product. In today's video, I'm sharing 5 bob haircuts that I believe work beautifully for fine or thinning hair after 60. These aren't simply trendy styles. They're practical, elegant, easy to maintain, and designed to help your hair work with you instead of against you. And don't skip the last style, because it's one of the most flattering options for women who have noticed thinning around the front or temples, a concern that's far more common than most people realize. If you enjoy simple, timeless style advice created especially for women over 60, I'd love to have you here. Subscribe to the channel, and let's discover which bob haircut could help you look fresher, feel more confident, and make every good hair day a little easier. Style 1. The inverted bob. Stop fighting gravity. Let's begin with the one haircut I recommend most often for women who say, "My hair always falls flat by lunchtime." One of the biggest misconceptions about thin hair is believing that more styling products will create more volume. In my experience, that's rarely the real solution. When a haircut is carrying too much weight in the wrong place, no mousse or hairspray can truly fix it. You're asking your hair to do a job that your haircut should already be doing. That's exactly why the inverted bob works so well. Its slightly shorter back and longer front aren't just a design choice. They completely change how the hair sits. By removing excess weight from the back, the crown naturally appears lighter and more lifted. Instead of hanging close to the scalp, the hair develops shape and movement with much less effort. This is especially helpful if you've noticed that the back of your hairstyle looks flat in photos, or that your crown loses volume only a few hours after styling. If you're thinking about trying this cut, here's one piece of advice I always give. Ask for soft, tapered layers rather than heavy, stacked layers. The goal isn't to create dramatic angles, it's to create balance. A gentle graduation at the back will give you lift without making the haircut feel stiff or outdated. Another mistake I'd avoid is asking for the front pieces to be too long. Keeping them around the jawline usually creates a fresher, more proportional look while still framing the face beautifully. Here's the idea I hope you'll remember. Thin hair doesn't need more product, it needs less weight. Once your haircut starts working with gravity instead of against it, getting natural-looking volume becomes much easier. And if you think this style offers the most movement, wait until you see the next bob. It creates softness in a completely different way, and it's often the better choice for women who prefer a more feminine, timeless silhouette. Style 2. The soft A-line bob. Elegant, without looking heavy. How do you know if the soft A-line bob might be a better choice than the inverted bob? Here's a simple clue. If you've ever looked in the mirror and felt that your hair makes your face appear wider or your jawline less defined, it may not be your face that's changed as much as the shape of your haircut. One thing I've learned is that fine hair doesn't always need more height. Sometimes it simply needs better direction. That's exactly what the soft A-line bob does. Instead of falling straight down with a blunt outline, it follows a gentle forward angle that naturally guides the eye toward your face. The difference is subtle, but the overall effect can be surprisingly flattering. Your hairstyle looks lighter, your neckline appears longer, and your features become the focus instead of the hair itself. What I especially like about this haircut is that it doesn't rely on dramatic layering to look stylish. The shape does most of the work, which makes everyday styling much simpler. On busy mornings, a quick blow-dry with a round brush, or even letting your hair dry naturally with a little smoothing cream, is often enough to maintain its elegant silhouette. There is one thing I would avoid, though. Ask your stylist to keep the angle soft and gradual. If the front becomes much longer than the back, the haircut can lose its balance and start pulling the eye downward instead of lifting it. A gentle transition almost always looks more timeless, especially on fine hair. To me, this style proves that elegance isn't created by adding more. It's created by removing anything that feels heavy or unnecessary. When a haircut has clean lines and the right proportions, it naturally looks polished, without demanding much effort. But not every woman wants a hairstyle that looks perfectly smooth every day. Some prefer a little texture, a little movement, and a style that feels relaxed from morning to night. That's where the next bob truly shines. Style 3, the textured bob. When less perfection looks more beautiful. There's something interesting that happens as we get older. Many women try harder and harder to make every strand stay perfectly in place. Ironically, that's often what makes fine hair look even thinner. Hair that is pressed flat, sprayed stiff, and carefully controlled tends to reveal every area where density has been lost. That's why I believe a textured bob can be such a refreshing change. Rather than chasing perfectly smooth hair, this cut embraces natural movement. Soft texture creates tiny variations in the way each section falls, and those small variations trick the eye into seeing more fullness. It isn't about making your hair bigger, it's about making it look alive. I also love this style because it grows out gracefully. Unlike haircuts that lose their shape after a few weeks, a well-cut textured bob still looks intentional as it becomes slightly longer. That means fewer stressful salon appointments and less pressure to keep everything looking perfect. When talking to your stylist, I'd focus less on asking for layers and more on asking for movement. Those two things aren't always the same. Too many obvious layers can leave fine hair looking wispy, while subtle point cutting through the ends creates softness without sacrificing density. It's a small detail, but it makes a remarkable difference. This is also one of the easiest bobs to personalize. Whether you wear your hair tucked behind your ears, slightly tousled, or with a soft side part, the shape adapts instead of fighting against your natural texture. That's what gives it such an effortless feeling. I've always believed that beautiful hair shouldn't require constant attention. It should still look good after a walk outside, after taking off a hat, or at the end of a busy day. The textured bob embraces that philosophy beautifully. Of course, some women are ready to simplify their routine even further. If you've been wondering whether going noticeably shorter could actually make thin hair look fuller, the next haircut may completely change the way you think about short hair. Style 4, the micro bob. Sometimes the best way to gain fullness is to let go. For many women, deciding to cut their hair shorter isn't really about the haircut. It's about letting go. Letting go of the idea that longer hair automatically looks more feminine. Letting go of the habit of holding on to thin, fragile ends simply because they've taken years to grow. And perhaps most importantly, letting go of a style that no longer reflects the woman you are today. In my opinion, that's exactly where the microbob becomes so powerful. One of the biggest reasons thin hair starts looking tired isn't what happens at the roots, it's what happens at the ends. Over time, the last few inches often become the weakest part of the hairstyle. They separate easily, appear almost transparent in bright light, and make the entire haircut feel less healthy than it really is. The microbob quietly solves that problem. By removing those delicate ends and keeping the length around the chin or even slightly higher, the remaining hair immediately looks denser and cleaner. Instead of drawing attention to what has been lost, the haircut highlights what still looks healthy. Another advantage people rarely talk about is daily maintenance. Less hair means less drying time, less brushing, and fewer moments spent trying to make every section cooperate. On busy mornings, that simplicity can be just as valuable as the haircut itself. If you're considering this style, my advice is surprisingly simple. Don't focus on how short it is. Focus on whether the length complements your jawline and neck. A skilled stylist can adjust the proportions so the haircut feels soft and sophisticated rather than severe. One belief I've completely changed over the years is this: confidence doesn't come from having more hair. It comes from wearing a hairstyle that looks intentional, healthy, and effortless. And speaking of softness, there's one final bob that achieves it in a completely different way. Instead of changing the length, it changes where people naturally look first. and that small detail can make an incredible difference. Style 5. The curtain bob. The softest change can make the biggest difference. Not every haircut transforms your appearance by removing length. Sometimes the most noticeable difference comes from changing where people look first. That's exactly why I wanted to end today's list with the curtain bob. As we get older, many women become more aware of changes around the forehead, temples, or the outer corners of the face. It's natural, but trying to hide those areas with heavy bangs often creates a hairstyle that feels closed in and much harder to maintain. The curtain bob takes a completely different approach. Instead of covering your face, it gently frames it. The softly parted fringe draws attention toward your eyes and cheekbones while blending naturally into the rest of the haircut. Nothing looks harsh or overly styled, yet the entire face appears brighter and more balanced. What I appreciate most about this style is its flexibility. On days when you want a little extra polish, a round brush can add a graceful curve around the face in just a few minutes. On more relaxed days, the fringe can fall naturally with very little effort. Either way, the haircut keeps its softness without looking unfinished. One suggestion I always make is to keep the curtain fringe light and airy. Thick bangs can easily overwhelm fine hair, while a softer fringe moves more naturally and blends beautifully as it grows. That also means fewer salon visits and far less frustration between appointments. To me, this haircut represents something much bigger than a trend. It reminds us that flattering hair isn't about hiding the signs of aging. It's about guiding attention toward the features that still tell your story with warmth, confidence, and character. And when you step back and look at all 5 styles together, you'll notice they all have one thing in common. None of them promise to turn back the clock. Instead, they help your hair look healthier, feel lighter, and reflect the confident woman you've become. That's a far more beautiful goal than chasing youth. If there's one idea I hope you'll take away from today's video, it's this. Thin hair doesn't mean you've lost your beauty. It simply means your hair has different needs than it did 20 or 30 years ago. The wonderful thing is that you don't have to fight those changes. You can work with them. Whether you prefer the structured lift of an inverted bob, the graceful lines of a soft A-line bob, the relaxed movement of a textured bob, the fresh simplicity of a micro bob, or the gentle face-framing softness of a curtain bob, the best haircut will always be the one that fits your lifestyle, your features, and the woman you are today. I've always believed that style should make life easier, not more complicated. You shouldn't have to spend an hour in front of the mirror just to feel confident walking out the door. A great haircut should do most of the work for you, leaving you free to enjoy your day instead of constantly adjusting your hair. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson of all. Looking younger isn't the real goal. Looking healthy, looking polished, looking like yourself. That's the kind of beauty that never goes out of style. If you found today's ideas helpful, I'd love to know which bob haircut speaks to you the most. Tell me in the comments. I always enjoy reading your thoughts, and your experience might encourage another woman who's trying to decide what to do with her own hair. And if you enjoy practical, timeless style advice created especially for women over 60, don't forget to subscribe and join our community. We share simple fashion and beauty tips designed to help you feel confident, elegant, and comfortable at every stage of life. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.